Perfect. All right. So, just to give a little lay of the land for Culture Community, if you come back next time, which we hope you do, we always spend the first 5 minutes in a little meet and greet session. Then we move into the presentation and discussion, and we leave a little room at the end for optional continued question and discussion as well. I have the great opportunity of introducing and talking a little bit more of talking more about Culture Community, who we are, what we do. We are a group of people that are passionate about being great leaders, intentionally building great culture, and also community. This community at Culture Community is fabulous. So please take some time to see who all is here and connect with them on a deeper level if you're able to. This is really a space to learn, develop, and grow, to connect with each other, to be inspired and activated to make positive change in the world. And the amazing thing about Culture Community is it happens every month. We do this every month. This is not just a special occasion today. This is something we do every month all year long. So next month we have Emily Smith from the team. She's talking about our module Culture Carrier and Belonging Builder. Registration is open now on our website. You can go check it out and sign up. We'd love to see you there. Then a little bit more about the Perk. So the Perk is who hosts Culture Community, and we are a leadership development studio, and we really focus on middle managers and helping companies build their leadership bench strength. And you might be wondering, why? Why are you focusing on middle managers? Well, we understand the unique position that they are in within your companies and organizations. They are hearing strategy and vision from the top and carrying that down to the people that they support, and also hearing the things coming up from the people that they support and leading those people as well. Most of the time, middle managers have been promoted to this position because they're amazing people. They're so good at the technical aspects of their job, but they're underdeveloped. They don't have the formal training on people-centered skills and human-centered skills. And so there's a training gap that exists. They're also overwhelmed. They have a lot on their plate. They're navigating a lot of tasks and potentially not reserving enough time to also manage people. And they tend to be overlooked. They report feeling unseen and unsupported. So we are here to help with all of that. We've created our Middle Manager Protocol program to help create experiences that transform the way these middle managers lead. And we do that in a way that is customizable. So we love hearing about your culture, your strategy, what you're looking to achieve, what are your core behaviors, and how can we infuse that into what people are learning. It is deeply engaging. We believe that learning and development should be something that is fun and people look forward to participating in, and they have tools to help lock in the learning. So we bring in activities and games to help them with that conversation. And it's also scalable. It's something that can be repeated across departments and teams. If you want to learn more about Middle Manager Protocol, please reach out to myself or Steph or anybody on the Perk team. We'd love to talk more about what this program all entails. One more plug before we get into the good stuff. The Perk is a huge supporter of CultureCon. CultureCon is a conference that happens in Madison, and they focus on all things culture. So they bring together professionals that really want to build a more connected, inclusive, high-performing organization. And so we have a discount code that we're happy to share with you all if you want to participate in this conference. You can use the code ThePerk20, and that'll give you a little reduced rate on that ticket to attend. We'd love to see you there. Leah from our team is speaking. I will be there a couple of the days. So if you sign up, please let us know. We'd love to meet up and say hi in person. All right, let's get to the good stuff. So we're going to be talking about leading change with confidence today. And this is a protocol from our Middle Manager Protocol program. So you're getting a sneak peek of that today. And I'm so excited to dive into this topic. I feel like every table that I'm at, every room that I'm in, change is a word that pops up. Participants in our programs are talking about just how much change they're being introduced to. I was at a conference last week where the keynote speaker was like, I know one of your challenges right now is constant change. We see the headlines with AI and the rapid change this is bringing into our environment. So I know it is a key thing that we are all faced with and focused on right now. And so today's session will really help you to create a culture that is change ready, to help give you the skills to communicate change, to coach people through change, and ultimately move that change forward. So first off, some expectations. We always start with this so you know what to expect from today. We would love for you to be present. I know that is so tricky in a virtual environment where you have a lot going on. You're sitting at your desk. I'm sure you have email and other things up. But if you can, I would strongly encourage you to set those things aside. Really give yourself the gift of this time. Be engaged. Ask questions, take yourself off mute, participate, throw things into the chat. We'll be monitoring that as well. Be open-minded. We love the saying, everyone has something to learn, everyone has something to teach. We all have such varied backgrounds and experiences to bring to the conversation. So I have some slides, I have some frameworks. I'm just as excited to learn from your experience as well. And last but not least, a perk session is not complete without a little bit of confetti and fun. So we want to have some fun along the way, and I have some activities that will help with that too. All right, a little peek at what you can expect today. So we're gonna start off with understanding reactions to change. So there's 4 things that we're really going to dive into: neuroscience, perceived loss, change curve, and the processing gap. And then the majority of our time will be spent on how to lead change. And I have a 4A framework for you that is anchor, acknowledge, align, and activate. Are we ready to jump in? I'm seeing thumbs up, I'm seeing smiles. Let's do it. All right, let's get right to change. As I mentioned in the beginning, change is a word I'm hearing in every room that I'm in. But I'd love to know, what is it? What is changing? What are you experiencing? What is the thing that is change in your organization professionally right now? Is it a leadership change? Are you restructuring? Are you implementing AI? What is it? You can tell me by using the annotation tool. So at the bottom left of your screen is an annotation tool. It's a green neon pencil looking thing. You open that up and you can grab text, a text box, pop your text box onto the screen here and you type away. Once you click away, your change will be added there. If that feature is not available to you, I'd love for you to pop it in the chat. What I'm looking for here is, what is the change that you're facing? We've moved offices, we're growing, structure change, you're looking to put in a title structure, organizational chart changes, new programs and tools, organizational growth, new AI software, lots of changes in structure, lots of restructuring happening. Staffing, I'm guessing roles and responsibilities are changing. Yes, your role. Workload reduction. I'm seeing some things in the chat as well. Merger complexities and layoffs. Yes, what else? AI adoption, new leaders. So really everything across the board here. Yeah, we have personal changes as well. Parents are getting older. I know that all too well. renovations, building, staff changes, yes. So thank you. Thank you for giving me some insight. Like I said, I've been hearing like all of this change that's happening, and I was curious to know what exactly are people facing, and I can see that it's really all across the board. And know too that if you're going through some of these things, you're not alone. There's other people on this call who are going through growth and restructuring and software changes. So lean into that as well, as this is a community for connecting together. Amazing. So in the chat, we're going to put the Leading Change Action Plan. This is something that you can download onto your computer, and we'll work through it today. So it is fillable, but you do need to download it in order for your changes to save. I'd love for you to take that change that you put into the annotation slide there, add that to your action plan, or if there's a change that you're thinking about, put that into the action plan, and we'll be referring back to that as we work through the session today. All right, so with all of those changes, I'm sure you have seen a whole host of reactions to that change. It might look something like this.
What? The home of the Whopper is offering cash or credit.
I think it's pretty bad if you have to use a credit card when you go to a fast food restaurant for something as little as $3.10.
If I use my GM card, I get a 5% rebate.
Thank you.
If I eat here long enough, I'll be able to buy a pickup truck.
Burger King bosses say workers won't have to figure out how much change the customer gets back.
I just hope it doesn't slow things down at the cash and carry, that people are going to be having to call New York and get the confirmation or, whatever it is. Because when I want a Whopper, I want it now.
Just another way to spend money. I'm sure it'll work for people on vacation when they don't have to do something, but I can't imagine it working on a day-to-day basis here.
So we see a host of reactions to a change when Burger King started offering credit cards to pay. We saw people that were like, I don't know how this is going to work. When I want a Whopper, I want it now. I don't want any delays in this process. We had workers at Burger King sharing, I'm not going to have to make change now. This is going to be easier for me. And another optimistic viewpoint in there, guys like, well, this is going to give me credit card points and I could potentially buy a new car if I eat here enough. So we saw everything from skepticism to worry to fear to excitement. And this is the reality. This is a normal human reaction to change. And we've seen this across history. I threw this slide in last minute. I happened to be at a networking event where we, of course, we're talking about change. We're talking about AI. And this idea of calculators came up. And this person shared with me that when calculators were introduced, there was a huge reaction to this change. There was a lot of controversy in schools on whether or not to introduce calculators. And so it got me thinking about what else have we experienced and maybe have something to look back onto to see what our reactions were and what happened. So credit cards was one. We saw that with the Burger King example. Calculators, when they were first introduced, there was concern over whether or not students were going to be able to learn math. Are they going to become intellectually lazy because now they have this tool to help them? And what we have seen is it is a tool, it is something that exists, and really smart people use calculators too. It doesn't mean you're not intelligent. Cars, when cars were first introduced, they were seen as disruptive. There was a lot of safety concerns. They're going to be dangerous. And we can see what happened after the fact. It really changed the way that we do business, how we get around and see friends and family and respond to emergencies. We're living this right now in AI as this continues to evolve and change. There's a lot of worry and fear and reaction about what this means, and we still are seeing what potentially will happen as a result of this. So I don't share this to say that these initial reactions are irrational or invalid or that all change is automatically good. I share it to show that the human reaction to change is part of the experience that comes with innovation and doing things differently. It's a normal part of the journey that we're on to start off in a place of uncertainty before we're able to move to a place of seeing the opportunity. So I'm curious, for the change that you all are leading and what you shared on the previous screen, what has been the reaction that you have observed? And again, we're going to use the annotation tool. So you're going to choose a stamp. It's in the same menu. So if you choose the green neon pencil, you'll get stamps, stars, check marks. What have you seen? What behaviors have you noticed as you're implementing new software, rolling out AI, changing roles and responsibilities? Lots in worry and doubt. A little bit of optimism. I like to see that. Complaining is moving up there. Yes, that is a real reaction. I'm curious, for those that are choosing other, if you're able to take yourself off mute or put it in the chat, what is the other? I'm curious to know what that is.
Often it's confusion.
Confusion, yeah. And what behaviors signal to you that somebody's confused?
Have you ever seen people's confused faces in meetings where they like like crinkle, the eyebrows and kind of like make this face like, I know I'm supposed to get this, but I don't get this, and then they don't want to ask questions because there's so much going on. And then it goes into that worry and doubt phase because they don't know the answers, and it can get all jumbled up.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. Confusion is real as well. I am actually surprised to see the number of stamps in optimism. I know that's some people love change, and I was curious to see how that showed up here, and there's actually a good amount. So yeah, again, changes all across the board and reactions all across the board. So let's dive into this a little bit more and kind of see where these reactions are coming from. And so as I mentioned, there's 4 things that we want to take a look at when we're understanding this reaction. The first we're going to dive into is neuroscience. I have a little quiz for you right off the bat. If you've been to Culture Community before, chances are good that you've seen this quiz and already know the answer. But for those that are new, and feel free to play along too if you've seen this. What is the human brain designed for? Is it A, to make us happy? B, to keep us alive? C, to make us forget people's names right after they tell us? I love all of the stars and hearts. You guys are crushing this annotation. Oh, look at that arrow. Ding, 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 ding. That's awesome. To keep us alive. Absolutely. You are so correct. I would also argue it's C, but the answer that we're looking for is definitely B. The human brain is designed to conserve energy and keep us alive. And because of that, our brain loves what's familiar. It loves patterns, it loves routine, and it loves the regular way of doing things. When we have those things, we are safe, we are conserving energy. When we are faced with change and uncertainty, that is a threat to our brain. Doing something different from the norm is the same as telling our brain that something is wrong. And oftentimes, when we have a reaction to change, it's because the brain is trying to protect us from something. So it can look something like this. There's no sound here. But you can see screaming, scared, alarm bells are running, it's chaotic. This is our brain on change. Things are just going haywire in our brain because things are out of the norm. They're out of our routine or the regular way of doing things. And so what happens is there's this exhausting battle that's happening. We have, on one hand, the amygdala that is processing this change, is receiving this change, and it's like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do with this. Do we fight, flight, or freeze? This is dangerous to us. We could potentially die in this situation. We're not used to this. We don't know this territory or this land that we're venturing into. And then the prefrontal cortex is the higher functioning portion of our brain that can step in and override this emotional center. And so this is exhausting. Our amygdala and our prefrontal cortex are constantly sending messages back and forth to each other, and it causes us to feel fatigued. If you've ever gone through a change before and have felt really tired afterwards, that is real. That is normal. That is part of the process and what happens when this communication is happening. And as I mentioned before, this reaction that we are experiencing to this change is because the brain is trying to protect us. And it's trying to protect us from this second item here of a perceived loss. It's trying to protect us from a loss that we might feel. And generally speaking, we don't wake up every day hoping to go to work to resist every change that is put in front of us. We can't wait to show up and push back on everything that's brought to us. The reaction we have to change is usually more about wanting to protect something that feels important to us. It's a feeling of loss that really drives that reaction. So it could be a loss of autonomy. Maybe we're losing control over how something gets done. We used to be able to choose and pick how something got across the finish line, and maybe that's not a reality anymore. Maybe our reaction, our pushback is coming from a place of loss of relationships. It takes a lot of time to build trust and connection with our teammates, and when a change happens, potentially that shifts. We're put into a new team, and now we have to start all over again. Maybe our brain is reacting to a loss of expertise. We've spent a lot of time doing it a certain way, the old way. We've developed a level of mastery. And with this change, now we're finding ourselves in a new position. Maybe we have to lean more into being a beginner again, which we haven't had to do in a long time, potentially. There's a potential loss of identity. Sometimes people put a lot of identity or a sense of self into their role, their title. The way of working is really who they are and what makes them who they are, and now that's all shifting. And so our reaction to that is processing that loss of identity. And then certainty, that comes along with the neuroscience that we already talked about. We love patterns and routine. We love to know what's certain. And when change hits us, things are not certain anymore. We don't have predictability, and it might not be clear what the change means for us or what is going to happen next. So all of that loss brings me to the third item, which is the change curve. The change curve is actually derived or adapted from the stages of grief. So as you look at these different categories, denial, resistance, exploration, commitment, you might have seen this in a different walk of life and going through personal loss. But change is a loss, and so we can use this change curve to help identify where people are at in the change process. So it helps us understand how people react to change. It helps us understand what people might need at different stages. And also that people can be at all different stages of the change curve. They can come in at resistance, they can come in at exploration, and the speed at which they move through the change can be different for everyone as well. And the last item I wanted to bring up as we're talking about reactions to change is calling out the processing gap. So this graph shows us that as leaders, we often have more time to get comfortable with change. Sometimes we know about it weeks or months before it is even rolled out to our team. And so it can be easy to get in a position of, okay, it's time to roll this out to the team. We roll it out and they're not immediately on board, and we get reaction and pushback. And maybe we even take it personally. They're just trying to be difficult. They don't like me. They don't want to do this. And really, they haven't had the same amount of time as us to process that change and what it means for them. So I share all of these, the neuroscience, the processing gap, the change curve, to help us understand where people might be coming from when they're faced with change and how these things might be fueling their reaction, so that we can understand the change that they're navigating and help us lead with more empathy, clarity, and coaching. All right, so I've done a lot of talking already. I need to back up here. I want to hear from you. We've seen the different reactions. We've seen what might be fueling these reactions. What is the benefit of people who respond well to change? And what is the benefit of having people be more resistant to change? You can throw it in the chat, take yourself off mute.
Corey, I can jump in. I know that for like the benefit of having people who respond well to change, I think that one's easier because you have more momentum. And when they are, having water cooler discussions with people around them, a lot of times they can bring some perspective or some excitement, even if like the leader isn't necessarily in the room.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Jess, thank you for bringing that up. And I think you do such a good job of calling this into conversations too, because I know when we're working with clients and we're having challenges, like who can we tap on the shoulder that would support this, that is maybe a little bit farther along in the change curve, that we can help, they can help us in this process too. Mm-hmm. I love that. How about for others? Oh, I see the chat. Okay. The benefit of having somebody be resistant is they ask good questions. Hard when the decision has already been made. I totally get that. And we'll talk a little bit about that today too. Bringing a resistant to the change side is often your largest win. Ooh, I love that. Positive motivation, yep. Resistance gives us clue to fears and worries people might be experiencing. Yes, I forgot to call out the source that I was using on the perceived loss. So there's a great Harvard Business Review article that just came out about treating resistance to change as a data point. So that is absolutely, yes, let's lean into it. What do we have to learn here from the resistance? That can be a great benefit as well. Amazing. Great. Thank you. Such great ideas and insights. All right. So we've covered a lot of ground. We know that change is inevitable. We've talked about how it's showing up in so many different places already. And we know that it's crucial for business. In order to achieve our goals, to stay in the game for the long term, we need to be changing and innovating. We know that change is hard and maybe harder for some than others. And as a leader, it's our job to lead teams through change. So what do we do? How do we do it? How do we navigate this? Well, we have created a framework. It is the 4 A's. The 4 A's are anchor, align, acknowledge, and activate. We're going to go through each of these to help you successfully lead change in your organizations. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to align. No, we want to anchor. Sorry, skipping ahead. The way we prepare our teams for change is to anchor in the vision and culture of our organization or the vision and culture of our team. And so the way that we do that is to understand that our job as a leader is to have and continuously communicate a clear vision of where we're going and why. If we have change but no vision, it seems very random. It seems like change for the sake of change. When we have a vision, when we know where we're going, when we know what success looks like, when we know what we're driving towards, change gives us purpose and direction. It helps us give clarity to what we're going through. And Culture, the second piece of this, is the behaviors we design and operationalize to achieve our vision. How are we going to behave as a company, as a team, in all sorts of situations, but especially in change? So what behaviors are we defining in our success during this change? So at the Perk, we talk a lot about vision. We have a vision moment almost twice a month, and everybody takes a turn talking about how vision has shown up for them recently. And so Dan is not on the call today, but he most recently put a vision moment together where he shared this image. He created this image for us. And so on one side, we say, if you set the vision once, this is what you can expect. Hope and pray. We have a lot of people questioning what's going on. We have people falling into holes. It is dark. There's spider webs in the corners. If we are constantly communicating vision, this is what it looks like on the right-hand side. We are building, we're working, we're encouraging together. It's much brighter. We know what we're driving toward. We know what success looks like. And so if we think about this in terms of change leadership, which side would you want to be on in a time of change? If the person at the top is communicating a change, hopefully it's the right one. We want to be on this side. We can see like there's ways to pivot. People are engaged, they're supporting each other. There's other ladders that we can try to climb to the top versus the other image. So this is how we prepare for change, is we are constantly talking about our vision. Before the change is even a thing, we are setting the direction. We're telling people where we're going and why we're going there, so that when the change happens, they're ready and know how to drive towards it. I also love to call this in because our vision and culture is really the roadmap for success. So the vision is represented by the mountaintop in the distance. This is our clear definition of success that we're driving towards. And then our culture is the car that we're riding in. So imagine your whole team is in this car and you're driving towards the vision. Everybody's presence in the car is what affects the ride to the vision. Whether we are growth-minded and open to change or resistant to change impacts our ability to drive towards the vision. And so if you don't have a vision or you need help communicating your vision, we have a great resource for you. The amazing Leah Rowe did a free webinar that's available on our website. We're not going to go into the details today about how to create a vision and communicate your vision, but there is a 4-step framework that is available for free on our website. You can scan this QR code and dive into that a little bit more. So we have the vision. We're clearly communicating the vision. Where are we going? Why is it important? What is that destination of success we're driving towards? And then we have the culture, the car that we're riding in, the behaviors that are going to help us achieve the vision. So these are your core values. These are your core behaviors. This is what you can lean on in times of change. I put an example of our core behavior on here. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. We have already talked about how uncomfortable change can be. And so as a Perk team, we have defined what are we going to do? How are we going to respond in a time of change? What are we going to do when things are uncomfortable? I've seen this with other clients too. Their core behaviors are have the courage to change, strive to improve. When you have that language to lean back on, it gives people purpose and direction. We're doing this change because we strive to improve. We're doing this change because we have the courage to do it. We know that we can get through this together. We know that this is going to help us grow, and this is an opportunity for us. I'm full of resources today. So the next one is a QR code to our next culture community, where we're going to be diving more into culture. The module is Culture Carrier and Belonging Builder. So if you're curious about those behaviors that drive your success and how you can define those for your team, come join Emily next month. Again, this is a free leadership opportunity, training opportunity for you. All right, so pull out that action plan that I put into the chat earlier, Steph put in the chat earlier. As you're thinking about the change that you're navigating, where do you have an opportunity to create a system around vision? How can you make the vision for your team, a project, the organization more apparent and show people what we're driving towards? And what behaviors do you need to lean on as you're navigating this change? I'll give you a second to fill out your action plan. And once you've got that filled out, if anybody's willing to share, I'd love to hear what's coming up for you, either what you put in your action plan or something else. We're all just soaking it in, absorbing the vision. Yeah, love that. True openness to ideas and reactions, keeping judgment at bay so we can all learn and grow. Love that behavior.
Corey, this is reminding me, I don't know if it came up earlier on the call, but our team literally is moving offices this week. And while that's exciting, I remember when the original office flooded, and of course we were like, our lives are over, and how coming back to a few of our core behaviors really helped, which is like, well, this is kind of the universe saying it's time to turn it up a notch. What are some of the benefits and the exciting things about this shift, even though we didn't choose it initially?
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Great. Okay, well, let's keep on moving. So the next A that we're going to focus on is align. And alignment is all about how we communicate change to create clarity and understanding. So I have 3 beautiful kiddos. They are ages 7, 4, and 2. I think this picture is from last summer, so they're even a little bit bigger than they are here. But if you know anything about kids, they love to ask why. You tell them we're going somewhere, why? Get your shoes on, get in the car, why? Where are we going? Followed by 17 more why questions all day long. And the great thing about kids is they don't really get a choice. We're going to school, whether you like it or not. We are going to run the errands because mom has things to do. And so we get in the car, we buckle up, and we go. They don't have a choice. The same is not true for our teammates. They're adults. They don't have to go with us. And quite frankly, we don't want to be dragging them along for the ride. We want to create alignment that helps them want to move in the same direction as us. Because their presence does affect the ride. If you visualize that mountain picture in the car, let's change the car up a little bit. Now we're in the Flintstones car, where everybody's feet in the car impacts what direction we go. Everybody in the car is either moving their feet in the same direction toward the vision, or they're digging their heels in. They're creating tension and stalling progress. And how we communicate that change impacts what our team does with their feet. So when we're communicating change, there's 2 things that we want to do. We want to co-create and clarify the why. We're going to start with co-create. although I think you could do these in any order. I love the story. I'm sure you all have heard it if you've been here on Culture Community. But there was a great lesson that came out of Betty Crocker cake mixes. So when they first launched the box cakes, they included everything in the recipe to bake a cake. All people needed to do was add water. And sales of this box cake were not successful. It did not take off. And the reason is people didn't feel ownership in the cake baking process. They were doing these cakes for special occasions. They were celebrating anniversaries and birthdays. And the way that the box cake was designed didn't allow them to feel enough ownership. It didn't feel special enough. So what Betty Crocker did is they changed the recipe. Now instead of just adding water, you had to add an egg. Suddenly, the box cake mixes took off. They were more successful because people were involved in the process. They felt ownership. And so the same thing happens when we're navigating change. Just like adding the egg, we want to co-create the change to help people feel ownership. This is what leads to less resistance. People are more willing to buy into something that they helped create. And so I'm linking this article again. It's the same source that I mentioned earlier, but a way that we can co-create change is to allow time for people to contribute to the process of change, not just respond to the direction that has already been set and all of the pieces that have been put in place already. So how can we gather input along the way of rolling out the change? And what I love about this article is it says, we're not talking about faux inclusion here. We're not talking about faux engagement where we set the direction, we make the change and we implement it, and then we ask people for their input. Our team already knows where we're at in the process, and that is not the way to help them feel seen and heard as part of the process. We want to think about ways that we can bring in their ideas along the way. And what this article also mentions is once we have set the direction, how can we create opportunities for people to be a part of it? How can they help roll it out? How can they help with implementation? How can they help with problem solving along the way so that they have ownership in the process as well? I'm going to take the stars and the checkmark annotation is like people loved this. I love it. All right, so after we co-create the change, we want to clarify the why. Fun little activity here. I want you to take a minute and look at these emojis. And I want you to create a story using just these emojis. So you're going to string these together. You can create a story. And I want you to write it down because I do want some people to share what your story is, if you're brave. There's no right or wrong answer here. What story would you dream up with these emojis? Once you have it, if you would... Oh, Jane. We saw things, we're upside down, so we got together and hatched an idea. It is exploding, and we are so happy we're going to have a pizza party. I love that. Fits right into the change theme. I'm feeling loopy today, like I'm seeing double. Maybe I ate some bad eggs. My stomach does feel like it's going to explode. Oh, I just want to cry. Or eat pizza. I see a question coming through. Awesome. Does anybody want to come off mute and share their story? Oh, nobody wants to share. We've heard them all.
Corey,
Yeah.
I'll share.
Thank you, Matt.
Okay,
Say something.
there's a shiny new object, a new change, the little bird cracking open, and there's some fireworks and resistance, and you see the two people kind of shrugging their hands on their hips. Not a, here we go again. Some people are crying, but you get together around a pizza and let people ask questions, and in the end, you have an upside down smiley face.
We're almost there. Oh my gosh, I love it, Matt. I love that you embraced the theme of change as well. It's so good. What are you noticing about Matt's story and the changes in the stories in the chat?
I don't think I've ever seen. Yeah, Wendy says she went a little dark with her story idea. I don't think I've ever seen stories that were so wildly different.
Yeah, we got a lot of variety here today. I love it. So many different stories. And the takeaway here is in the absence of context, you will make up your own story. You will fill in the blanks of what is happening. And that is exactly what happens when we don't communicate the why. When we don't know the why behind something, we make up our own stories, we fill in the gaps, and oftentimes we know our teams are very creative. They will come up with things that are potentially not even on the right track, not even where we were intended to go. And so we see that with the emoji game too, is like, we create our own story, we fill in the gaps when we don't know any additional context. So we love knowing the why. Coming back to the brain loves knowing the why. It gives us certainty. When we know the why, we're more motivated to support it. It builds trust and reassurance, and it helps us understand the big picture. Again, that visioning, what does success look like, and how the change contributes to the success of the team and organization. So the framework that we use to clarify the why comes from Simon Sinek. It is the Golden Circle framework. Why, how, what? What is the change that we want to see? This is the change that we are communicating. But we don't just want to get on a podium and blast the what. We're restructuring the office. We're implementing AI. If we left it at that, people would fill in the blanks and make up their own story as to why that's happening. So we need to pull it back to the why. What is the purpose of this change? Why is it important? How is it helping us achieve our goals? Why should our teams care about this change? So if we think back to our reactions to change, we know that people process change differently and it can be hard. And if there's no compelling reason to get on board with the change, we won't do it. So we need to paint a clear picture explaining the reason why we can't stay where we're at. So here is an example. You all can probably help fill in the blanks a little bit more for me because you shared, many of you are going through this restructuring in your change. So the organization is restructuring roles and responsibilities. That's the change we want to communicate. But again, we can't leave it just at that. We need to pull it back to the why. Why are we doing this? This is just an example. We've identified areas where roles and responsibilities have become unclear or duplicated over time. This restructuring is intended to create clear ownership, improve efficiency, and better position the organization for the future. So now we've given a clear why. What is the reasoning behind this? And we have a real opportunity to build trust and relationships in how we communicate the why, being as transparent as we can, knowing that we can't always divulge all of the information, but we have a huge opportunity to build trust with our teams by sharing the why and being transparent behind it. So as you're thinking about your change on your action plan and the change that you need to implement, here are some questions that you can reflect on to refine the why, to generate that statement to help explain the why. What is the purpose of this? What pain point is this potentially solving? Why can't we stay where we're at? What will the impact be? What's in it for the team? Why should they want to change? How does this align with the big picture, mission, vision, and strategy? Oh, I love that quote, Matt. When you take the text out of context, you're left with con. That's great. All right, so we're moving to the second quadrant of our action plan here, which is align. What ideas do you have for the change that you're facing to co-create the change, if that's possible? And what is your why? What is the why statement? that you want to communicate. All right, so we are clearly and continuously communicating our vision. We are operationalizing our core behaviors, bringing those to life. We're aligning on the change by co-creating and clarifying our why. Now it's time to acknowledge. It's time to acknowledge the emotions and the reactions of the team to the change. And a perk session would not be complete if we didn't bring in the thought model. So if you've seen this, you'll see it 100 times because the thought model is so powerful. And typically we teach this as a way of owning your mindset to get the results that you want. So we have circumstances that we are faced with. We all have thoughts about those circumstances. Those thoughts evoke feelings within us that drive our actions and drive our results. So understanding that for yourself is a great starting point. And then once you get the good hang of it, you can also use it as a framework for coaching. You can almost visualize this thought model in your head as you're having coaching conversations with your team. So you're using it to help them, to help you understand how they feel about the change and the mindset that they have about the change. So what mindset, how are they thinking about the change that is creating feelings and actions? It helps them understand their emotions as well and help them process the emotions around the change. And it's our opportunity to then help them shift their perspective. What are some questions we can ask to help them see things from a different perspective and how that might impact their feelings, actions, and results? So the way we do that is through this 4-step process. We become aware of their feelings through the thought model. We understand the thoughts that are causing their feelings. We ask questions, and then we empower them to make a choice and take action, which will be part of our 4th A. So let's look at an example. We'll just carry through the restructuring roles and responsibilities. That is the circumstance, that is the fact, that is what's happening. And you are noticing some reactions to this. Maybe people are becoming hesitant to make decisions, they're questioning the changes and expressing frustration about unclear expectations. So how can we use this model to coach? We can start asking some questions, using our curiosity and powerful questions to become aware of their feelings. How are you feeling about this change? Maybe the employee says, I'm frustrated. And that's your opportunity to say, tell me more. What's causing you to feel frustrated? Well, this change should have been handled differently, maybe is a thought that they're having about the circumstance. And so you can validate them. You can have a conversation. It sounds like what's bothering you is how the process unfolded. What other thoughts are you having about this restructuring process? The employee shares, you get more insight, you learn more about where they're coming from, their perspective, and you have a chance to say, if we stay in this place of frustration and thinking about how the process unfolded, what actions are we likely to take? What results are possible then? Are those the results that we want? Then we can go to step 3, ask questions to shift the perspective. What if we look at this differently? Love this quote, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So that is what we're doing in this step 3, is we're asking questions to see what else is there, what else is possible. Here are some questions that you can put into your toolbox as you're coaching through change. What is the possible learning here? What is the gift and opportunity? What's another way to look at this situation? What's the best thing that could happen? So you're leaning into your curiosity, asking them to think about things differently, and shifting their perspective. One thing to note about the thought model is the circumstance is emotionless. It's a fact. We are going through a restructure. We are implementing AI, and it's our thoughts about that circumstance that trigger our feelings. And so this is why you can have different reactions, different results on your team, is because everybody is going to process that change differently. We talked about that in the beginning and how people respond to change. They're coming into the change at different places. So you can have completely different reactions to the exact same situation. In your third quadrant here for acknowledge, I want you to think about your own change and what's important to you about acknowledging the emotional response that your team might be going through. Give you a second to fill that out. All right. Last but not least is activate. So we've done a lot of work up into this point. We are communicating our vision and culture. We are co-creating the change, clarifying our why, starting with our why. We're having coaching conversations around thoughts and feelings around the change. Now, ultimately, it's time to move to action. The change is happening and we need to move forward. So how do we get ownership over the change? So step 4 of that coaching process, so we're bringing that coaching process down to activate, is to empower them to make a choice and take action. So again, we're leaning into our curiosity here, asking questions to shift perspective and asking them what thoughts they're going to choose to get on board with the change. You can choose to see this thing as the worst thing ever. You can choose to see this as an opportunity. What are you choosing? What results are possible from that place, from that choice? And ultimately, what we want to do is we want to help people climb the accountability ladder. So if you were part of our accountability session, this is a key component of that. Victim behaviors are below the line. So we're in the state of change and we're making excuses. We don't like the decisions leaders have made. We're pointing fingers at how wrong this could be. And what we want to do is we want to pull people up the ladder into accountable behaviors, to acknowledge reality, embrace it, find solutions, and make it happen. So how do we do this? How do we help people move up the ladder? Well, you are already really great at this because we did it in the coaching section. Section is to get curious. We need to ask questions. After we communicate the change and acknowledge the emotions, it's time to get curious. Again, we're asking lots of questions. We are helping people identify what is in their control, how can they contribute to the change, and what does moving forward successfully look like. So here are some powerful questions you can ask. I did steal some of these from Cy Wakeman's book, No Ego, which is a great section in there about business readiness and change readiness. And ultimately, what does great look like in this situation? If you're not committed to the change, what are you going to do to get committed? Once you are committed, how are you going to help get this change across the finish line? So we're asking powerful questions to create a plan with our team to move the change forward. Then once we create the plan and we hold the accountability, once we understand what we're going to do to get on board, we need to hold people accountable to those behaviors. So we need to give feedback. We need to recognize when they are contributing towards the change and helping it move towards the finish line. So giving recognition, shouting them out, celebrating them for making progress on the change. And we also need to give feedback when resistance is still part of the equation. It's not a behavior that we want to continue, and we want to hold people accountable to the change. So the last item here on your action plan is to activate. What questions will you ask your team to help move the change forward? And once you finish that, I'll celebrate you. Congratulations, you made it, you did it. You made it through the 4A framework. You have 4 tools to take back to your teams and organization: communicating vision, co-creating, stating the why, coaching using the thought model, and asking powerful questions to pull people up the accountability ladder and into the change. So I would love for you to make a plan. What takes this from a great conversation to real behavior change is putting something into action. So what are you going to do? What are you going to take back to your team and implement? Maybe you just want to make a star on your action plan with the thing that resonated most with you today and you want to take back and focus on. That would be great. With that, we left a little bit of room for questions here. So if you're able to stay on and want to hang out and talk more about change, we'd love to do that. If you need to get